Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hamid Khan with Stop LAPD Spying Coalition, and welcome to our. Can is my sound coming through? Okay. Okay. Welcome to our first Tuesday of the month webinar. This is our main facilitator is Chella, and Mariela are tied up with some stuff, so we're just kind of filling in. But so just wanted to kind of just talk about a few things. One of the things we thought was about, just that we wanted to do a little bit of presentation, and I just put a link on in chat on a report that we published on the surveillance of the Department of Children and Family Services, that how intelligent information gathering and data collection is used by the Department of Children and Family Services and the Child Protective Services to then further trace and track and stalk communities, particularly Black women in Skid Row. This report was done in partnership with the Downtown Women's Action Coalition as well. So that's what we did, and I want to honor the work of Victoria Copeland, who is an active member of the coalition, and then they helped support do with all the research and everything else, and then they just finished their PhD last year from UCLA, so sending them a lot of love and good wishes as well. So we had a town hall. It was very well attended. We had a packed room in June, and then there was a lot of stuff that came out, and what constantly came out was the policing of the system. So just a few things to share. So I'm just gonna open it up. So this is, if you go to the give me one second. If you go to our website and go to our reports and zines and all, so this is what you will see. And the way it got reframed was that DCFS stands for Dividing and Conquering Families, and how the family policing system contributes to the stalker state. I think one of the best things that at least that this report was based upon was that it really looks at the public benefit systems and the systems of public sector through the lens of broken windows policing, which is really the correct way to look at it. But that, and if people are not familiar with broken windows policing, I mean, I'm not going to go into too many details, but a very simplistic way to the broken windows policing is that just exactly what it says, that a broken window represents blight. A broken window in a neighborhood represents that where, like, that the minor crime is going to be happening, particularly around sex work and drugs. So immediate intervention is needed if there are any signs of it, whether there are people behaving in a certain way, or there is some low-level crime going on. It's also called quality of life policing as well. So immediate intervention should be enforced before it just gets into some bigger crime as well. So that's the theory behind broken windows policing. So that's exactly how the systems in our public sector, particularly the Department of Children and Family Services, this is how, and the Child Protective Services criminalizes poverty and race. So when we were, and I'm just going to do a little bit of a slideshow we had created, and would go through that real quickly. Let's see. So that's the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. This is something that we had developed, calling the architecture of surveillance. And this is how it basically, the idea here, and this is one of our first presentations, and we are in the process of updating that as well. And I see Tiff Guerra who's our primary main researcher at the coalition as well, and a core member and the coordinating team member as well, and an organizer, just can use all the support from the folks in helping kind of just update this architecture surveillance. So this is about 9, 10 years old. But the idea here is that how the LAPD gathers information and how that data is then used to trace and track and monitor people through various means. Through whether it's about electronic surveillance, whether it's about analog type in-person surveillance, and everything else. And you can find this on our website too, under the architecture of LAPD surveillance. These are just some of the ways that they do that. This is something where just how different technologies are used and various other things are used in that. So I see, let me pause here for a second. I see Chella just coming in. Good evening, Chella. Good, great to see you. We just got started. We know that you and Mariela were tied up. So do you want to say hello? And Chella, can you hear me?
Uh, uh, can you repeat that?
Oh, I was just saying that we started. We know that you were tied up with some other stuff, so we started this presentation on the DCFS report a little bit, but just wanted to see if you
Oh,
wanted to say hello to folks.
okay, yeah. Hey, yeah. I'm Chella. I go by CNA, and I've been a part of the Gender and Sexuality Committee for since it began. Yeah. All right.
Great.
How about you?
Thank you, Chella. So these are just some of the different ways when you see Stingray. This is how phone systems are being tracked. This system basically creates an artificial system where all our phone calls and text messages and everything else are rerouted instead of going into our carrier's system, and then they end up going to the police. The DRT is another way, freedom on the move. So these are all various ways that information is gathered on us. Here's also something else, and let me just see why is it not doing that. I'm having a little difficulty with this thing. Okay, what's going on? I'm so sorry, folks. Give me 1 second. Oh, some little bit of a computer glitch going on there. So then this data collection is where we develop this whole organizing tool called the stalker state. So all that information keeps on then moving, and this is the LAPD, and this is where the public sector, the private sector, law enforcement agencies, Homeland Security, and the whole idea here being that how information moves and streams of information moves within various systems, and how data is collected, and how then it's just shared with a lot of different, whether law enforcement agencies, whether social media companies, whether corporations, and on and on and on. This is just one example of how DMV, that how information, when we go to DMV, how our information moves through the Department of Motor Vehicle. I mean, we just go in to get a license or we go in to get an ID, but here's a whole lot of different ways that information moves in that. Here's another way that how housing departments, they use the information as well. And if you've heard about us talk about community safety partnerships, that is one of the program that they have been building as well, which is really it's been going around for 10, 11 years now, but it's very much the surveillance and a very coercive control of public housing residents. And it's very much rooted in this whole operations of community policing, which is nothing more than a counterinsurgency operation. And then this is something that we were able to map out from part one of our report, and I'll put a link of that too on the information sharing of the Department of Children and Family Services. So if you look at it, there's a whole lot of information that is being moved, and you'll find this also on our website too. And all of these acronyms and everything are explained in detail. But that's how information goes through from various agencies into the Department of Children and Family Services. So the whole process and using data to criminalize people and to deny people public benefits and going beyond denial to then further criminalize and really take children away from the families as well. This is really some of the meat of how information goes in and how information is then used. This is just an idea of how predictive analytics work and how algorithms work. So this is an ETAS algorithm, and ETAS stands for the earthquake something. That's an earthquake predictor model. This is the predictive policing algorithm that was developed by various academics, particularly Jeff Ranthingam, who was the chair of the Department of Anthropology at UCLA. So it's really a lot of bogus science that is being used in this thing. So now this is how our report shows that how decisions are implemented, that how so many different ways risk stratification models are used, where just an information comes into the Child Protective Services, for example, and then it goes into all of these things are based on investigations are based on doing those intakes, and then we go back to those graphs that we were showing, that then a person's name and date of birth and address and other information is put into this thing. It's almost like a milkshaker, and then it comes out that whether a case can be opened. And there have been different analytics about analytics that have been deployed as well, various tools. I mean, one of the most notorious one was called the Allegheny model out of Pittsburgh, which was then completely discredited, which ended up really criminalizing a whole lot of folks all around the country. Here's another process of how when you look at it, that how much information is going, what are the various predictors that are used as well, the information, the demographics, prior referrals and allegations, cases, placement and other, age at first removal, positive toxicity, special education referral, development referral. So these are just like the as it says, that using coded features, the risk stratification model algorithm generates a risk level and then subsequently flags a certain cases as complex risk. So that's how just when people go in seeking support, instead of that, they are very much in number in this whole game of datafication of our bodies, and then they're criminalized as a result of that. Is another way, just in our report, that we had opportunities to talk to, caseworkers as well. And then, just as they say, they do it the way they want to, long as they type the stuff in the computer and that's what they know about you. If you come in there a certain day, you say certain words, they type it. If you're aggressive that day, they type it. And they're not going to say the day you came in nice. The aggressive part is going to be all over, and that's the way you're going to be treated. Now, one of the things is also just extremely harmful is that that when people talk about aggressiveness. Now, somebody's coming in, somebody has living in poverty, somebody doesn't have monies for food, they have children, there is no other support, there's violence going on. So it does not take in how different issues what are the other elements that can impact a person's life and impact their interview as well when they go in. This is our conversations, because the report was a result of actually sitting down with moms, sitting down with community members, doing extensive interviews, going and doing extensive research. And this was all a collective process with the community, doing extensive research on the system itself, what has been the history of that thing, talking to social workers at DCFS too. So, for example, like this one person here says that I remember when I went to court with my kids, and they told me if I didn't have a mailing address that I wouldn't be able to meet in court to get my children. So they took my children the same day because I didn't have a mailing address. So, which we see a lot, just especially being in Skid Row, that's just a regular thing. A lot of people in Skid Row use LA Can's address because where else would they receive their public benefits check or general relief or social security or food stamps or various other things. Then, another comment came from another mom as well that my daughter is diagnosed schizoaffective. So because she's diagnosed schizoaffective, they already judged her. They say she was retarded, she can't handle nothing. So they literally put a report that my daughter was hallucinating, right? And they went after my granddaughter tooth and nail the whole 3 years, and my daughter didn't have any teeth. I'm stereotyping her. Oh, you've been on drugs all your life. You don't have no teeth. No, my daughter have no teeth because she had gingivitis. She has a gum disease, and that's why she has no teeth. Not that has anything to do with my granddaughter. So now, this is how the process of criminalization is happening as well as these interviews are taking place, and the aggression is very much there. And now all of this information, somebody being aggressive, somebody not caring for their children. The granddaughter is in an environment of danger. The mom of the granddaughter doesn't take care of herself. She has no teeth. So all of these stereotypical things are also then put into this algorithm, and it's almost like a milkshaker. So obviously then it comes back, and their directions are, well, take the baby away because we want to protect the child, and that's what's happening. But that is also a conspiracy as well, that what does the protection of a child mean, right? So this was something that a social worker shared in their interview as well, and particularly from white parents coming in who, and it is so vulgar and gross that they said that they literally place an order to adopt a child. And then they insist, they say, we just want black babies. We don't, if they're older than 5, we don't want them. They want black babies. I mean, your preference is okay, but that just specifically not a baby, just always just want black babies. We want the black babies. So these are the doings of this department as well. That again, there's so much race and poverty being criminalized, and this is where what happens as a result of these data-driven sort of assessments and risk assessments that are being done, and that's what the report really was highlighting. So then this was also just folks who were a part of this conversation as well. Then they came back and they says, no, I mean, a few ways we can start to rethink child protection. So maybe I'll invite people, if somebody, we can each people can take turn to read this. So anybody wants to read 01?
I was raising my hand, but I can just
Oh,
I can
please
just
go
read
ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm on the screen share, so I couldn't see.
That's kind of foolish. Yeah. 01, rethinking quote unquote prevention. We believe that the real quote unquote prevention of harm requires reparations in the form of housing deeds, land back to indigenous people, and financial repayment to mothers impacted not only by the system, but by violence within society as a result of racism.
Thank you, Martius. Somebody wants to read number 2? Please, Joanna.
Resource communities would be able to grow their own food, educate their own children, and creatively come up with the ways to address conflict without the isolation of community members. If individuals were able to create mutually accountable environments and processes, there would not be a need for carceral institutions where families rot in jail. These forms of accountability and care could not fully come to fruition or be sustainable if our communities continue to be surveilled, policed, and separated. Mothers call for the ability to access their own housing, to have a place to create and sustain family bonds over the years, something many mothers currently do not get to experience because of the carceral ecosystem.
Thank you, Joanna. Anybody wants to read number 3? And since I can't see hands or anything, please just go ahead.
I'll go ahead and do it. Number 3, creating or funding spaces to share stories as healing praxis. DWAC mothers also state that liberation looks like radical self-care, the sharing of stories, experiences, and tools to deal with challenges. The ability to share stories and practice self-care allows for mothers to begin healing from the experiences of being in the system and generates community with others who may have had similar experiences.
Thank you so much, Rockland. Anybody wants to read 4? Please go ahead.
Prioritizing the expertise of impacted communities. Further, the sharing of stories is a form of expertise and knowledge building. Those with lived experience are able to counsel and offer guidance. Those impacted by the system are experts in their own experiences, and thus academic research claiming for the expansion of policing without considering the expertise of those impacted remains extremely harmful.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. So that was, and I would really encourage folks to look at this report. I would also type in the link to part 1 of this report. I mean, this second one is very detailed, very extensive. And what is going on now is that folks in Skid Row, since this report and the town hall, there's been a reading circle that is in formation as well. And we had one conversation in the reading circle for particularly directly impacted moms. And also, and we're hoping to keep on building on that. So I'll stop there and maybe ask Matios, if you have anything to add to that, Matios.
Hey, yeah, this is Matthew speaking. I use he, him pronouns. Yeah, I was lucky enough to be part of, helping plan that town hall and even participating in it. And I think what's always most potent to me, and I've also experienced this to a certain degree, with, our exploration of the laser program and the unveiling there is, from an outsider's perspective, someone who hasn't directly been impacted by DCFS, you read about its operationalization or even these other programs, and like you can read it and see that it's messed up and awful, but to hear like the real life experience kind of affirm that, or not affirm it, rather to kind of hear that like how it actually plays out is always incredibly potent. And just seeing how folks react is really impactful. And then just thinking about how DCFS and the entire information sharing environment kind of affect the political landscape of like what tools there are to criminalize mothers and children right now. I know I talk a lot about, we have our high school interns that are working against school surveillance programs. And one of them, even today, when talking about this new app to report on students in LUSD, Lazar, made the connection that, it's like when people call DCFS to be retaliatory, right? So just making the connection that like, reporting a student on an app can be done in a retaliatory manner for whatever reason in order to target and incriminate them in the same way that DCFS is used. Like just knowing that, it's that common, this tool to criminalize people, that it's alluded to in that way. And then still on the topic of youth criminalization, thinking about how, as national legislation is more explicitly anti-trans and queer-phobic and more explicitly attacking, people who have babies, how is DCFS here in LA County going to be used to kind of facilitate that information sharing environment? I know that within these LAUSD programs, they identify gender identity issues as a risk factor for youth to commit violence, which is absurd in its face. But we also know that, even in like quote unquote progressive California, there are instances where the cops get caught sharing information, with anti-abortion states. And even if they're not explicitly sharing it, we know from our work and, understanding the stalker state and information sharing environments, this information can get to like, a Texas official, right? Who I think Greg Abbott, I think that was what, a year and a half ago, like explicitly sicked their equivalent of CPS on parents who have trans teens. So just thinking about how this is all going to play out as the national landscape kind of changes.
Thank you, Matthias. Welcome, Mariela. Good to see you. You want to say a quick hello?
Hi all, my name is Mariela. Good to be back in the space. Ciel walks now, so we're all over the place and have you on speaker so I can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mariela.
Saludos.
Thank you. And folks, the other link that I just posted was part one of the report that was released in, oh, hello, baby. That was released in September of 2020. So the one before that was that was just released. Any thoughts, any comments, anything that that comes to mind after hearing all that? Chella, please go ahead.
Just like the whole criminalization of like me. I know I mentioned this last month. But even like in the 1930s, there was this like big push for white families to adopt Native American children. And one of the ways they were talking about it was they were criminalizing the families. They were like, these families are poor, these families don't have anything for these kids. And so that's their way of taking them out and giving them to white families. It's so funny how like instead of doing that, they're funneling them now into the prison industrial complex, you know, let's go to prison pipeline. So it's like, and it's not just DCFS, it's also, you named it, GR offices and SSI offices, which are the same thing, and all those things. I just think about those, I think about that a lot since I've heard about that. Yeah.
Thank you, Chella. Other thoughts, comments? And Mariela, we just wrapped up doing a brief presentation on the DCFS report part 2 that was released in June.
Yes, I got to hear some of it and have been part of the process with the first report. And my thoughts right now are just, I think about this a lot as a parent pretty regularly. So I was more, just thinking about how to build more power and community around these issues. Yeah, I'd love to go just deeper with all of this and see how I can support and participate.
Thank you, Mariela. Joanna?
Yeah, for me, also, hi everyone, I'm Joanna. But for me, the presentation really spoke to me just because it's something that I've also looked at in my own work a little bit, because I'm a PhD student at Berkeley, and I've done research in South Central specifically, on how policing affects women there in that area. And obviously, like, I touch on how police officers and encounters with them like affect how we view our experiences and the surveillance that happens there. But then also, I think it's kind of hard to not talk about policing and talk about all the different forms that, it comes in. And family policing is one that's very frequent in, low income communities, in informing the experiences of women in particular. So it's something that I looked at in my own work, but then I also have my own personal experiences with it. And that's how, like, I was able to think about the role that people have in shaping our experiences and how we view the kind of community that we do have, right? But then, like, who is really there to help us and who isn't. And I think it could be a very violent experience for people who have personal experiences with this kind of state surveillance. So it really spoke to me, and I'm also on the same page as Maria. Like, I'm very excited to dig deeper into this with you all and see in what ways I can help support this.
Awesome. Thank you. Other thoughts? All right. Well, cool. Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep everyone posted how these things are going, the reading circles, and Joanna, we can circle back and I can let you know as to the groups that are coming together and, I mean, how that is kind of just forming as well. It's a work in progress, so yeah, definitely. Well, should I pass it back to you or what do you think?
Me and Mariella both of us. Um, yeah, that was a deep. Thank you, Hamid. That was a deep convo to come in on. Uh, yeah, Mariella, are you with us right now?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so do you want to talk about what we talked about yesterday?
I'm not sure right now. Let me see. I just sat down.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll need a pause. Yeah, I just need a moment to transition. Yeah, just
Okay. Um, yeah, I didn't prepare anything today, so yeah.
oh, I got you. Um, well, what we were talking about yesterday, both Chara and I are co-holders of this space along with Mohammed and Matios. And this space is also part of, comes from working on these same issues within our coalition. So that's what we were talking about yesterday, how to use this meeting time for us working through one was expanding like who's holding this space, getting more like recruitment, getting to know each other as our capacity has gotten lower or just needs of more people. And I think the internal stuff is best to talk amongst coordinating team members first before we open it to.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's what I feel we could share is that this space is created to address these issues that like what we're talking about DCFS and reproductive justice, sex work. There's a lot of things around policing of gender and sexuality. That's how Ciel asking for waters. And then these are all very relevant topics in our movements too of how do we hold these topics with each other. So that's what I feel comfortable sharing. And would love to meet folks more and see like how what this space has meant for folks and what kind of building you'd like to see and future or how you see yourself in it. I see I knocked down all the things that I swept. So I'm gonna stand up again, but I can hear us. Thanks for hearing me too.
Yeah, I think 2 years ago we made a decision to make every other month like internalized conversation. So for example, if last month we did something that was everybody was invited to it, this month will be more of like an internalized conversation of like how can, reflection of like how can we do better, um, what were things we can grow on, how are we doing, right? Um, and then the thing is, around 2 years ago, we added 2 new members to our gender and sexuality group, right? And because of that, it had been a kind of like we had been doing it for a minute, and then it just was like, okay, full flight, right? Every month we'll do it, you know. Um, and I'm going to be honest about my own capacity around that time. I was kind of here and there, like I would get a text about what the gender and sexuality group what we're gonna do, and I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. And then we'd have a meeting, and then I'd be like, hey, can we talk about this? And they'd be like, oh, yeah, we can talk about it this month. And then, whatever. And then it just, my capacity just, because of my own health, my physical health is not doing as good as it used to be. And I kind of had to step back a little bit, and then we lost 2 members. And because of that, I've had to step up a little bit more. And I'm just not able right now. And so like I do think an internalized conversation would be best. I'm naming what I need. I'm already working with something else with Stop LAPD playing, which is great, and that's got a lot of my attention and a lot of my energy. And gender and sexuality. It's not that gender and sexuality doesn't. It's just something I kept mentioning when we started this was I was under the oppression of gender and sexuality started as a way to talk about the misogyny, patriarchy, misogynoir, queer and transphobia suffered in the space that we were holding at LA Can. I remember I kept saying that, which I think looking at both, like looking at what is going on at large with queer and trans folks and women folks and folks who have kids, I think that's very important. I also think it's important to address what's going on in our home base. And so, and those things didn't really get resolved because there are a lot, right? Especially when COVID hit. When COVID hit, it was just like everything had to be on Zoom. So it's, and I'm not blaming it on anybody. I just think that's the way it happened, right? I think as soon as Zoom, as soon as COVID and Zoom started happening, I was getting speakers almost every month, and paying them out of my own pocket. And then we got a grant, and I was able to pay people out of that, which was great. And then when both those things ran out, it was like, what do I do? Also, like my health was starting to deteriorate. And so it was just like, how do we sustain this, right? How do we sustain? And that's when me and Mariela were both like, hey, how about having 1 month this and 1 month that? And then that was better. And then other things started popping up, especially with what's been going on with Roe versus Wade and what's been going on with, anti-trans and queer legislation, and what's been going on with like literally people being under attack for being trans and queer when they're not even trans and queer sometimes. And so and I look at the news when I hear about these things and I cry because there's shit I can do, That being said, I do think it's best if we put a pause as well on gender and sexuality, just to think about recruitment, right? Other folks who can do this work, right? As well as talk about the things that we've been needing to talk about, which is happening because we are doing a fucking retreat, which is great. I'm excited about that. Yeah, those are the things I can name right now. Any questions, comments, Matos, Mariela, anyone else?
This is Matthias speaking. I just wanted not so much a question as a comment, and just want to quickly thank you, Chella, for carrying this work and maintaining the space and really cultivating it into what it is, and alongside Mariel and everybody else. And I also want to say, just one of my favorite things about the gender and sexuality space. I'm coming up on 2 years with the coalition. When I joined as staff, I'd have to go to every meeting, which I'm happy to do, and I'm still happy to do. Content wise, it does get a little bit dense, but the gender and sexuality space, especially, this is something I felt like Mariella facilitated really well, was one of the few spaces in the coalition just regularly you checked into yourself, whether it was like breath work or just something, a reflective question. And so I've always been grateful for that. I think it continues to be a space where that is self-reflective, while concurrently being reflective and analytical of systems of oppression. And I think that's really dope and powerful and special. And thank you for naming that you're at capacity and all that. And I think it's important to name that the GNS work has really like blown up in the last year. Or I know there's been stuff, just looking into working with Swap LA. There were a slew of PRAs with having to do with sex work in the LAPD, which I think is important. I know we broached discussions of like how social media surveillance is weaponized against sex workers specifically, whether it's deprioritizing their content or anything else. And then all this stuff that is just kicked off with DCFS. And it's important to shout out DWAC, Downtown Women's Action Coalition, a ferocious group of Black mamas and just Black femmes at LA Can who've also been kind of carrying and facilitating that. So just really grateful for the amount of work that's been taking place within GNS spaces, and understanding that there's so much more that needs to be done. And even when I think we talk about recruitment, I think it's important to uplift like all the other folks that aren't necessarily on this call but have been doing really dope stuff. And so just saying that I'm really grateful for all that, and eager to see what else has to come. Mohammed, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, no, I also, just be very mindful of capacity, and obviously Mariella, 3 babies, beautiful babies. So that's like, just being more than a handful and everything else. And Chella, absolutely. I mean, like, you leading the fight and Skid Row, and particularly keeping the fierce the trans voice out there, and with your band and everything else, so fully recognizing. And then obviously you and Jamie. So I think regarding this space, I also want to honor, because originally, just Jamie's ideas, and I remember Jamie bringing you in, Chella, and having that conversation. Then talking to Mariella about the first Tuesday, which used to be the ODB Tuesday as well, that how do we put it to best use? And then meeting in person, and boom, here comes COVID. So this was back in early 2019, and a few months later, that's we were. So just obviously, just folks have been at work and doing this for a minute. And I just don't want to limit it to the last 4 years, because all of that was informed by the years and years of work before that as well. I mean, this is how we wanted to build. It was critical because one of the main lens for the coalition when it started was race and poverty. So that's why we were based out of Skid Row as well, to see how national security police state operates and how it impacts the communities. So now bringing in gender and sexuality was a key moment for all of us too. I've learned a lot from you all, just like, collectively from all of us as well. And I think, but there's also opportunities here as well, and fully understanding capacity and how people can be sort of relieved of certain responsibilities as well. But it's not like, where just Mariela says like it doesn't have to be like every Tuesday, first Tuesday, 6 o'clock. There's an expectation. No, I mean just like just there has to be these shared responsibilities. So with that, there are other people as well who are super interested in continuing to build. Just we had a great conversation with the Strippers United about just bringing them and then their relationship with Black sex workers as well. So that conversation is very much moving too. This was something about like just and I think and it's the power that people are bringing where just with the labor movement that is moving as well. So, and just for folks who don't know, we also do a radio show as well every Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, Radio Insurrection on KPFK. So Matthias and I co-host that, and we had the Strippers United and dancers who had organized at the Star, the club in Hollywood, and their incredible fight. So some of them are definitely interested in being a part of they said that they were been following the coalition's work. And then the Black sex workers. So we're thinking of having a part two of that conversation as well. So it's going there. There are some folks from DVAC who've also expressed interest in supporting this as well and being a part of this. So what I would suggest is that over the next 4 weeks, up until next Tuesday, next month, see who all is and map out the landscape and see who else is there, and invite people and just kind of go from there. While the rest of the work that, as you were saying, Shella, that the coordinating team has been, you and Jamie have been kind of shepherding that process too. So that is happening as well. That we're going to be doing this thing in September. So yeah, that's just another sort of an update as well. Then of course, folks right here on the screen, Joanna, thank you so much. I know that you reached out to the coalition, so we're going to be discussing that, some part of your project as well. And then anybody else who's interested, please reach out to us at stoplapdspying@gmail.com. I'll just type in the email address right here. So thank you.
Yes. I was just gonna ask if there were any other thoughts from other folks, reflections and hearing us share, and yeah, that's all. And I can share back again.
Shala, I just want to say thank you so much. I learned so much from your presentation the last time we met. And like my purpose of coming like with Stop LAPD Spying is just like dismantle white supremacy, and the police being a major part of upholding that. And nobody holds the police accountable like Stop LAPD Spying. But this group was such a pleasant surprise for me to be able to like feel connected and accepted in such a way and still do the work. And so I thank you for creating that space and making it happen. And I hope that it can continue.
I do want to acknowledge that I am not stepping down. I'm putting a pause on where I can, because I'm also working with Swap LA, which is another org, another collective of awesome folks. And I'm still doing my band thing, still doing my queer apocalypse thing. But yeah, I mean, and I'm still a part of Stop LAPD. I'm doing the internal work with so it's not like I'm stepping down. It's just I just think I think time to reflect. I think reflecting is a very good thing. Looking back. Yeah. I mean, and I think when we come back and when I get a little bit better, if I do get better, you know, I speak it. I'm gonna get better. But like literally we will be able to fight all this shit. You know what I mean? And build coalitions. Even hearing Hamid, that's awesome. I didn't know that y'all had a meeting. You could have invited me. I would have been down. If you did invite me, I'm sorry I didn't see the email. That's real. So yeah, I think, yeah, I'm just being honest with like where I'm at physically, mainly emotionally. And like, cause every time it's time to like think of a thing, you know, every time it's time to think of another conversation, I'm just like, at first I was coming out with them like, right, and now it's like, I don't know, you know, it's like, what can we talk about that's not been talked about already? Roe versus Wade, we already know that shit. What do we talk about? You know what I mean? And I think just inventing newer ways to engage as well, right? Yeah, and I'm thankful for Mariela, like holding it down when she could, I mean, carrying pretty much 4 lives, her and 3 other babies. That's just, and like, and also we're doing stuff for the queer and trans youth. I'm amazed by Mariela. I'm so amazed by her, and so I thank you for that. Oh hi. Oh, I see the baby. Okay. Anyway, I'm done saying what I needed to say. I think we can wrap this up. Um,
Oh,
anyone has anything? Oh, go ahead, Mariela.
well, I want to say thank you right back. Appreciate that, all of that. And also just appreciating that this space is meant to be a space of care, collective care, and practicing, as we dismantle the police state, what we're building needs a continuous space for practice. So thanks for sharing how you're doing and taking time to take care, Chela, and reminding that it's not supposed to be alone. So I'm glad you're able to share that, what your needs are in this space and in the coalition space as a whole too. And it sounds like what I'm gathering that it would be good in the next month to have some intentional conversations around this group, planning around its future, and then continued conversations around the internal space, and that we have an internal working group in the coalition to do that too. And then as for me, yeah, I'm gonna keep participating as much as I can. And yeah, and the fight around children and families that we were talking about today is near and dear. So would love to see how I could keep going, participating with that part. And then in a previous session, I feel like it was just a month or two ago, I shared about the Gender Expansive Magical Seeds youth retreat that I was helping organize, and it happened July 6th through 9th. So some kind of space for share back and bringing on board some youth, I think would be great. And then I'm thinking about having just been in Atlanta with Cop City, and then lifting up. I was there lifting the names of Tortuguita, Ashley Burton, Coco the Doll, and Ariel Summers. 3 trans women who were killed in Atlanta, and Tortuguita was a non-binary person who was one of the forest defenders, was brutally murdered. And this was 2 days ago on Sunday. So this feels really like my home space here to share that and see what other building we could do. And I met a lot of folks out there to connect to the coalition and our work. That's what I wanted to bring back to. And that's it for now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Couple quick announcements then. So I'm assuming we're wrapping up. So next Tuesday is the second Tuesday, and that's going to be on the fight against the war on youth. Matthias, do you want to give us a sneak preview?
Yeah, it's a little sad, but we're concluding our internship with Fairfax High School students this week. And so we'll be talking about that and kind of some of the work they've done and created. We'll also be kind of announcing our setup for our upcoming monthly youth day at the park, which, just for context, if folks don't know, the Coalition's War on Youth work group works with first through fourth graders, but we also work with high schoolers, and we've done stuff with middle schoolers as well. And so a lot of what we do is like curriculum building, which is like games and workshops and art making. But like they're obviously sectioned off by age in these different ways. And so the monthly youth space at Vista Hermosa Park every third Saturday at 10 a.m. is kind of a space to bring it all together from different schools, different age groups. So we'll be talking about what we have in store for this month.
And then, folks, we have been doing a movie night as well. So we've already had a movie night in last Friday of June. And then we just had one last week, last Friday of July, where we sit outside the LAPD headquarters. Our projector is not strong enough to project it on the wall. So we get this big inflatable screen out there. So, but popcorn and hang out, and it's been very well attended. Thank you, Rocaline, for, being a regular. We've had at least about 45 plus people on both of these. And then, so the next one is this last Friday was 41st and Central. The next movie we're going to be showing is on August 25th. And that's going to be on COINTELPRO 101. So it really just generates a lot of conversations and, so that's just the update. And the third Tuesday would be in person at LACAN. Next Tuesday will be again on Zoom. The third general meeting would be in person. And then the fourth Tuesday, data-driven policing will be in person as well. So that's just the quick announcements. Thank you. Is that a wrap?
Oh, I didn't unmute you. I'm sorry. Yeah, thank y'all for coming. Get involved in any one of the other meetings that we do. And yeah, please take care of yourselves. Literally. Self-care is an act of revolution. So remember that, y'all. So yeah, thank y'all for coming.
Have a great night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.